Ron's Reloading Channel. Welcome to another edition of Ron's Reloading Channel. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the steps on how I reload for my Freedom Arms Model 83 454 Casull. Stay tuned. The recipe that I will be using to reload for my 454 Casull is in the Hornady 10th edition. I will be using 34.6 grain of Hodgdon H110 powder, along with the Hornady 240 grain XTP Magnum projectile. The Hornady number is 45220. The primers I will be using are CCI number 400. Along with some brand new Starline brass. I will be using the Hornady 4 die set to load the 454 Casull. Yes, I did say 4 die set. You have your decapping, your sizing die, your case mouth expansion die, your seating and crimping die, and furthermore, they do give you a taper crimp, which you're supposed to do after you roll crimp your cartridge, and this will put added tension on the neck to avoid bullet creep. The first thing that we want to do is set up our sizing decapping die. Since I'm using brand new Starline brass, there's no need to decap the primers. So what I do is I run the decapping stem all the way up into the die and just tighten it down. Next thing we want to do is that we want to bring the ram all the way up, and then we will turn our sizing die clockwise until we barely feel it hitting the shell plate. And you will feel a little cam over. A little cam over is fine. So now I'm just gonna lock my ring into place and we're all set. I am using the Hornady single stage press. I do have the lock and load bushings in on it. So we'll just take a wrench and give it a little turn, and we should feel some slight cam over at the very end of the stroke. Once we have that set up, I will take my new brass and I will still size it, then I will chamfer and deburr it. Once I have my brass resized, I will chamfer and deburr my brand new brass with the Frankfurt Arsenal case prep center tool. You just want to clean the case mouth up. You don't have to put a whole lot of pressure on it for it to do its job. Now that we have our brass sized, chamfered, and deburred, what I will do is I will go ahead and set up my case mouth expansion die, and then to expand the case mouth for the projectile to barely seat into the brass. How I set up my case mouth expansion die is what I do is I'll insert a piece of brass into the shell plate. I want to run the case mouth expansion die pretty far up because I don't want that case mouth expansion die hitting my brass just yet. So what I have done was I brought my die up. Now what I'm doing is I'm turning it clockwise or downward until I feel resistance from hitting the brass. So right there I have resistance on the brass, and I'm just going to bring this down, finger tight it, and I'm going to bring my ram back down, and I want to turn anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn downward. That way it expands the case mouth on your brass. And this is more just of fine tuning on it. So I need to bring it down just a little bit more, maybe about another 1/8 of a turn. Then we'll run our brass up. You just want to keep on making minor adjustments until you feel that you have a good expansion to where your bullet or your projectile is just barely seating into your brass. Now that we have our brass case mouth expanded, I go ahead and I'll start seating the primers. I have my small cup and my primer seating arm. We're seating our CCI 400 primers. Now that we have our brass sized case mouth has been expanded and the primers have been seated, now I will take some time to warm up my Frankfurt Arsenal IntelliDropper. Let it warm up for about 30 minutes and then we'll be ready to throw our powder charge at 34.6 grain of H110. One of the things that I will do while I'm letting my electronic powder throw warm up is I also have a beam scale that I'll use. I like using the beam scale to cross-check my electronic powder throw. So right now I'm just zeroing out my beam scale while the electronic powder throw warms up. Now that we have the powder in our cases, that we are ready to set up our roll crimping die, and I have put on my crimp die the Hornady click adjustment bullet seating micrometer. How we're going to set our die up is I'm backing my crimp die out pretty far, and what I want to do is put a case in the ram, bring it all the way up, and I'm going to screw the crimp die down till I feel resistance. Then I'm going to back it out one turn, and then I'm going to lock it down. Looking at the Hornady 10th edition, that my cartridge overall length needs to be set at 1.745. So with the Hornady bullet seating micrometer, one click equals 1/1000th of an inch. So our measurements that we have right now is 1.826, and we need to be at 1.745. So I'm gonna do 81 clicks, and it's gonna get us pretty close. So what I will do is that, doing the math, it calls for 81 clicks, but I'm gonna adjust it 80 clicks. I just like to be on the safe side because I can always take it down 1/1000th of an inch. So I took it down approximately 80 clicks, and I will just run the projectile up in the seating die again, and we'll take another measurement. So what I've done is I've went down 80 clicks, and I'm going to take another measurement, and I'm at 1.745. .745. And I will measure each case as I go through the process. And what I'm doing right now is I am just seating the projectile into the case, but I'm not crimping it just yet. With these big bore calibers, that I like to do the seating and crimping in a separate stage. Now, if I was loading maybe like 9mm or something, I would just do a taper crimp and seat it all in one stroke. So how we're going to adjust the crimping die is I have it ran pretty far back up. We have our cartridge and our projectile seated to the correct depth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the ram, and I'm going to screw the crimp die down till I feel resistance. Now remember to keep in mind to keep your seating stem up real high so we're not pushing the projectile down as we are performing the roll crimp. So I'm pretty solid right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the ram and I'm going to turn it maybe about an 1/8 turn. I'm going to finger tight my lock ring and then we're going to crimp. And I've got a pretty light crimp with the 454 Casull. You definitely want to have a good crimp. So I'm going to turn my crimping die clockwise another 1/8 of a turn. And you will feel some cam over at the bottom of your stroke. And this looks a lot better as far as the roll crimp goes. And what I will do is I will inspect each roll crimp. And as I'm performing my roll crimp, I still want to take my measurements with my caliper just to make sure that I am not pushing the projectile down any farther. With this video that I put together on things that I do and look for when I reload the 454 Casull, that it will certainly help some of you newer reloaders out. Be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.